Good evening. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to First Church Religious Science First Center. I'm Greg. I'm happy to see all of you here. I know there's a list, a big picture of all you on the board. I'll see it in a minute. Let's do a little meditation that comes from the Louise Hay self-healing material. Many of you are familiar with this. Deep at the center of my being, there is an infinite well of love. I now allow this love to flow to the surface. It fills my heart, my body, my mind, my consciousness, my very being. And this love radiates out from me in all directions and returns to me multiplied. The more love I use and give, the more I have to give. The supply is endless. The use of love makes me feel good. It's an expression of my inner joy. I love myself, therefore I take loving care of my body. I lovingly feed it nourishing foods and beverages. I lovingly groom it and dress it, and my body lovingly responds to me with vibrant health and energy. I love myself, therefore I provide for myself a comfortable home, one that fills all my needs and is a pleasure to be in. I fill the rooms with the vibration of love so that all who enter, including myself, will feel this love and be nourished by it. I love myself, therefore I work at a job that I truly enjoy doing, or I do something that brings me joy, and something that uses my creative talents and abilities. Working with or being with people that I love and that love me, and earning a good income. I love myself, therefore I believe and think in a loving way to all people. For I know that which I give out returns to me multiplied. I only attract loving people into my world, for they are a mirror of what I am. I love myself, therefore I forgive, and I totally release the past and all past experiences. I release everyone. I'm free. I love myself, therefore I live totally in this moment, in the now, experiencing each moment as good and knowing that my future is bright, joyous, and secure. I am a beloved child of the universe, and the universe lovingly takes care of me now and forevermore, and so it is. Well, that's the old meditation that I have been using for decades, and people seem to like it, and it really has a lot in it if you take it apart. Louise Hay stated years ago that the bottom line for everybody she ever had counseled or spoke to in large groups, there was an underlying sense. She says it comes down to, there's lots of different kinds of complaints that people have. They'll complain about their health or their boyfriend or their girlfriend, their relationships. They'll be obsessed about all kinds of things. But she'll say underneath everything, it can come down to a couple basic issues. And it's really, I'm not comfortable with who I am or how I show up in the world. I don't feel like I'm good enough. I don't do enough, or what I've done has been screwed up, and I've done so many things that are screwed up, I can never make it right. So there's guilt, and there's, and I'm not saying everybody has the same thing, of course, but people share a lot of these different things. There's regrets, you regret things that you've said, you've done, things that you don't feel that can be undone, missed chances, living a certain way for a long period of time, and you see the impact it's had on other people. And so we can really do a real number on ourselves in terms of being critical of ourselves. And human beings do that a lot. And I'm remembering a Frank Sinatra song, regrets I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention, right? There, there's regrets. And then there's a human propensity to go into, well, if I'd done this, that would have happened. And if only I had done that, and if only, and of course, as you come into a class like this, these are disastrous ways to start to think about your past. You come into a new thought center and you're going to learn some axioms. Axioms are spiritual truths. And Louise Hay has them so simplified. In a way, they're too simple. What she does is too simple because people just think they gloss right past them, but they don't realize the whole world is listed in what she calls points of her philosophy. Learning to live in the now. I've been hearing about that for 40 years. Ram Dass wrote a great book, Be Here Now. I mean, that one idea you could think about for a year, See, in this class, in this teaching, we embrace some very, very big ideas. But the thing is, it's the extent in which you think about them, you bring them into your being, that'll make all the difference. Be here now is such a concept, because if you could really do that, then you'd be living an entirely different life. If you could really do that, you wouldn't be holding any grievance towards anything or anyone. There was a book Tara Singh wrote years ago, which was entitled, Love Holds No Grievances. And so, if you can extrapolate for that for a moment, that each of us are, I'll say, children of love. By that I mean we are individualizations of this one creative source. Each of us are pure divine energy, and we're evoluting and vibrating at certain levels. Some of us are vibrating, kind of high, and we don't react to much because we really understand that people are doing the best that they can. So if you encounter somebody who's a real practitioner of this teaching, you don't see them getting too upset too often because they don't take anything personally. Now, you may not be there yet. Few people are. Most people live in reaction to everything that goes on in their life all day long. People act, you react, or you act, they react, and it goes that way throughout the day. What would it be like if you could begin to practice this teaching and start to embrace some of these concepts? So again, I started by saying the bottom line for everybody, Louise Hay would say, is they just don't really feel good enough. And they're smart enough to know they're screwing up their lives in different ways, and they know it. And so you come into a teaching like this, and you encounter the author of this book, The Science of Mind, that's Ernest Holmes, and he'll say, there's power available to you. And he said, there's power for good available to you. And you can use that power. So you're not necessarily a creature of fate. The whole thing hasn't been decided against you. You live and you move and you have your being as a potentiality. And we learn here that life responds to you. So you may not think that you're at choice, but you are at choice. You have the ability to be in a new moment anytime you want to. But that doesn't usually happen for most people. Most people don't have new moments. I learned this when I was a young man. The book I read was The Awakening of Intelligence, and that was by Krishnamurti. And that whole thing was, people don't listen to each other very much because they can't. And why can't people listen to each other very much? Well, I'll tell you why. Because if I know any of you for a little bit, human nature is I've got a bunch of opinions. I have a backstory that's running. And then the other people, of course, going to have they've encountered me a few times, and they have a little bit of a story too. Now imagine how it is with the people you love and the people you're married to, or your children. You have a lifetime of experience with people, right? And so next morning you get up and there they are. Do you think you're having a new moment with them? Do you think you're having a new moment with anybody? So just becoming aware of that. From other books, when they say every encounter is a holy encounter, it's very true. You're a spiritual being and you're meeting people every day. And it's an opportunity, really, to connect. It's an opportunity to clear away the story. It's an opportunity to drop any type of resentment. And you can be like a child. You can enter a new moment with anybody, if you're willing to. See, that's all spiritual work, plain and simple. Because you can be the person in the room who really has released the need to be offended. You can be the person in the room who really is focused on love. You're the person in the room who can be the cheerleader, who can see the good in everybody. And even if you've had a history with them, you can do this. You or I, any of us, can also be the person who carries the scorecard around. The scorecard around is the piece of paper. It doesn't have to be a paper, but it's what's in my head of every single thing that I imagine you've done to me, said about me, and I carry that. And then, so then I'm going to be responding to you because I got a lot of all this stuff that's running around in my head. And the problem with all that, there's a lot of problems with a lot of that, is we profess to be New Thought students. We're here to see the God, the good. Okay, that's what we're here to do. We're here to heal our lives. And what we learn in our teaching is our outer world is going to reflect our inner world. So if you want your outer world to look and feel better, then you do the work with yourself. You do the work with your own conversation. Every Thursday night, I invariably will get around to one question, which is, what's it been like being you? What's it been like being you lately? Because if it's a week like I might have had where I'm torturing myself with a bunch of negativity and a bunch of problems, and I'm not finding a time out from that, I'm just bombarding my consciousness with all of that. That starts to show up in your life. So we have these little interventions here that we talk about, different talks that we've done this past year. We borrowed from some old commercials. One was learning to take the pause, the pause that refreshes. That was, I think, the old Coca-Cola commercial. Raymond Charles Barker, the founding pastor of this center, was famous for always saying, yesterday ended last night. And if you're involved in any of the 12-step programs, and I know there's a good number of you who are, they will say it's never too late to start your day over again. So if you've had a morning where you've had some interactions and you've been sad or you've been angry or you've reacted to someone, here's a little gift. Try not to make whatever happened today about the other person. If you really want to start getting powerful, stop talking about other people. You might say, okay, I lost my way this morning. I lost my cool. I gave my power away. But you don't have to say because of Joe or because of Susie. If you gave your power away, you gave your power away. So, and if we want to start having some ownership of our own life, then we really don't language everything based upon what other people are saying or doing, because the person who's responsible for your own life is always going to be yourself. Louise Hay stated, we're each 100% responsible for all of our life experiences. And some people may not like that. She's not teaching you that you're to blame for anything. Okay, sometimes people hear that in the wrong way. We're each responsible for all of our experiences. It simply means people can be doing anything. And they used to say to me, you're only responsible for the second thought. Because your first thought might be, judgment, I'm going to reach out and do something. But, the second thought is, no, I could see peace instead of this. I don't have to be part of the mess. I could release the need to go there. I want to be about what we call my Father's business. Of course, it's gender neutral. It could be, I want to be part of the universe's business. And, I want to be here to extend love, connection, and peace. And I don't have to go there. I don't have to see evil, I don't have to speak evil, and I don't have to hear it. I can operate on a different plane of existence. I can operate in a different place. So Louise would say, when you really begin to do this and you really begin to work this, everything in your life will start to work better. And I know she's right, it does. But it's a day at a time, and that's what we call it, that's the work. So we tune into classes and gatherings like this. We do this also on Sunday. We have a meditation at 10:45, and then we have a lesson. And the lesson is it's going to be the same, and it's going to be different because we find 50 or 100 different themes to talk about. But we're always ultimately going to circle around to one basic premise, which is that life is responding to who? To you. Right now, self-acceptance and self-approval are the keys to all positive changes. So, in many of the classes, there's so many little affirmations and phrases that are associated with our work and her work. She would say, never, never, never criticize yourself. Okay, so I bring that up because Solomon was doing a very good introduction. We're running he calls it 12-step integration. It's really a group for people who are, they've come to us maybe through 12-step programs, one kind or another. But he was teaching this week about the importance of the fourth step. The fourth step is about taking a searching and fearless inventory of ourselves. And all that reminds me of it. So I went through a 12-step program, and that was the step that really bothered me, right? It was the one that, okay, that's like getting really honest with yourself about yourself, right? Everything you've ever done. And most people are like, when they do it, it's kind of like they naturally go to list all the negative attributes, everything they've ever done, said, sin they've committed, if you want to call it a sin, and it's scary to people who come into recovery. Fortunately, it was taught to me a different way all those years ago. They said it'd be good if you could kind of like think of yourself. First of all, it's important to know yourself. That's something we learned from Socrates. He said, know thyself, okay, to thine own self be true. So when you get into an inventory situation, why would you do one? Well, the idea is you do the inventory. It's like there's a little store down the corner, and you see them going around there counting everything they have. So we do an inventory so we can see what we have on hand, okay? We can see what's selling. See, there's parts of my personality, I'm sure they're very engaging, you all think are wonderful, but there's probably parts of my personality that you would think, well, Greg, that's not really selling very well here in New York. So the thing is, and we're not doing it for them, by the way, we're doing it for ourselves. So we do the inventory so we can take a look. You're not going to change any behavior or do anything unless you, first of all, become aware of what it is that you're doing. So I invite you all to consider thinking about the idea of doing an inventory, and when you're going to interject the Louise Hay material, is make sure that you're talking about what you have on hand. If you think in terms of the store inventory, we're not trying to figure out what's missing necessarily. We also want to know what you have on hand, okay? Because never is our purpose or our idea to be critical of ourselves. It's just the opposite. So in the rooms of recovery, they also have what's called a 10th step. And a 10th step is each day to take the time to review, how your day went. And how this ties in is when I ask you that question every Thursday night here, I say, what's it been like being you? It's just another inventory. So we do our inventory so we see what works and what doesn't work. And when we come into religious science, there's an expression, we're here to trade in the lesser ideas that we have for the greater. Okay? And so we come in here each day and we do an inventory, and that's what we do. I was told as a religious science minister, your job is to see the God in the good. Your job is to keep practicing seeing the God in the good. So that's what we do.